Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, we're doing a college football weekend preview show. So I am awesome because guess what that means? It means there's a weekend of college football coming very, very soon, such as maybe tomorrow, which is awesome because guess what? It has been a hot minute since we have watched some real live actual college football. Last time we watched a real live actual college football game was in Miami. That was a while ago. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing actual real live college football this weekend. Even though there's not a lot, there's some, and that's better than nothing.
Exactly. And that's what the week 0 and even sometimes week 1, that first Thursday or whatever, it can, whatever. It's the oasis. It's a little bit of water. I don't care if it's muddy. I'm thirsty. Give it to me. Give it to me. Give me. And so, yeah, we're going to talk about the Saturday games this week, the week 0 games, and look ahead to some Thursday games next week. This is basically what we used to do this on Patreon. We would look ahead to the weekend's games and talk about them and converse about them and throw some picks out there. We're doing that now here for everybody for free. We're just giving this stuff away. And frankly, I don't know if that's a good idea.
Well, this week there's not that much to talk about. So this week I'd feel bad about charging people for because there's only about 2 games this weekend that I really have any thoughts on. And but we'll do next Thursday's games other than the Ohio State Minnesota game because I suspect we will talk about the Ohio State Minnesota game on another show between now and then. But Tennessee Bowling Green, this may be your only chance to get our thoughts on Tennessee Bowling Green next Thursday. So I have my friends from Tennessee behind me if you're watching on YouTube. If you're not watching on YouTube, I bet you can think about which friends from Tennessee might be there with me. And yep, it's them, and they're my favorites.
I can't not smile when I look at them, even though they can't smile based on the way we've seen them. So I tweeted this out a while ago. Like I have my sports college football markers. Like there's once the magazines go on sale, that's a thing. And another big thing for me is when I'm finally able to record games on the DVR, like the channel guide goes out 2 weeks or a week, and I can finally, I need to record that game. I need to record that game. I need to record that game. And it's not as good as watching the games, but you still get to see the words of that game on the TV. It's like, oh, Ohio State and Minnesota is right there. And now I'm recording it. And then of course I have to edit the recording because I need an extra half hour because you keep giving me 3.5 hours and that's not quite enough, but whatever. I'm not here to complain. This is a happy moment. And so I've got some more recording to do. Although the good thing is, Tom, we're going to be home on a Saturday, not this Saturday and next Saturday. So we get like the first 2 Saturdays of the year at home, which sign me up for that every year. Like I will open up on a Thursday or a Sunday anytime.
Well, you're home the next 2 Saturdays. This Saturday, I've got to go coach youth softball, so I'm missing the start of the Nebraska-Illinois game. And the next Saturday, I have tickets for Ohio University in Syracuse, which happens to fall during the Clemson-Georgia game. So I will be watching arguably the biggest game in that time slot in person, which is awesome because we do like to go down to Ohio University every year. It's usually on Ohio State's bye week. When I have a nice Saturday off and I can just go watch a game and not be working a game, like that's always kind of fun. So we're doing that. And so I'm sure when we do a recap show for week 1, I'm sure you'll have thoughts about like whatever other games are on that night, but I will have some Syracuse, Ohio University takes, and buddy, Bobcats favored by 1 should be a barn burner.
That is a very interesting game. And you don't necessarily just have to be tied to those 2 teams. It helps, but it is interesting. Anytime a MAC team can get like a Power 5 team to come to them, well, that's anything can happen there.
The first game of the Frank Solich era was Pitt coming to Peden Stadium and Ohio University beating them in overtime on a pick 6 by De'Aaron Byram in 2005, I think. So
everybody knows that, Tom.
Could be another former Big East now turned ACC school losing in the first game of a new head coach at Ohio University. That's how history works. Can't wait. It's gonna be exciting.
Before we get there, Tom, I think we need to talk about week 0 and this Saturday's game, which honestly, there's no reason for people to be, for me, for you to be so excited about this game. But here we are. And I say no reason normally, but there's a ton of reason because there's so much intrigue about this game. Tom, for me, I think this might be the most important game in Nebraska football history.
In at least recent Nebraska football history. This is the game that is going to swing perception of Nebraska football wildly in one direction or another. And it is a 1:00 kickoff. I'm looking at this on lsufootball.net, their TV schedule, and it says noon. And we were talking about this game earlier in the week. Well, before we or after we recorded, and I pulled up the schedule and I said, it's a noon kick. And you're like, no, it's not. It's a 1:00 kick. And I said, no, it says noon. And you're like, you forgot to adjust for Central Time. So it's week 0 for us all. I have now remembered. I have gotten lsufootball.net/TV'd for the first and last time this year. Now I will always remember to adjust from Central Time. lsufootball.net/TV, a fantastic resource for if you want to find where literally every college football game is on TV. Gert has another one, but it's whatever. It's not as good. It's not purple, so therefore it's not as good as lsufootball.net/TV. Anyway, so let's talk less about purple and more about Nebraska. This game is, for a game between two teams, one that fired its coach and one that was 3-6 last year. This is a fascinating game. Because this feels like, this might be it for Scott Frost if they really, if they win, if they go 5-7 again this year. Like, how confident are you that he's back for another year? They got a new athletic director in Trev Alberts, who maybe, they were both Nebraska players under Tom Osborne in the 90s. So maybe there's some kinship there, and maybe he wants to give Frost some more time. But sometimes a new AD comes in and wants to bring in his own guy. And I'm not saying they could get Matt Campbell, but if somehow they could get Matt Campbell or someone like that, you might need to do that. So this would be a real good game for Scott Frost to win, because they need to get to a bowl game this year. And you go through the schedule and it's there's 8-9 toss-ups on there. There's not that many that they're guaranteed to win. There's not that many that they're guaranteed to lose. And there's a whole bunch of toss-ups. This is one you got to win. It's a road game. It's at Illinois. It's a brand new, it's a Burt Bielema team, brand new, just fired Lovie Smith, and you don't fire a coach because you're good. So it's in Illinois. It's a bad Illinois team, first year coach. You should be able to win this game. This should be one of your Big Ten road wins, but you have to do it. If they lose this game and, the little NCAA nonsense thing they've got floating around, that would be extremely, very bad for Scott Frost and his future at Nebraska. So my professional recommendation, Tony, would be that he wins this game.
He needs to. They're a 7-point favorite. They have more talent. They have 17 returning starters. They've brought in some guys from other schools, some transfers at skill positions that they really like. You put all of that together, and there's enough talent here that if they do go 5-7, how do you excuse that? And that's why, Tom, when I ranked my Big Ten coaches, I had Scott Frost last in the Big Ten West, because how do you keep losing if you've got some talent here now? Defensively, I know they've been bad. Scott Frost a week or so ago said they're about to start breaking out some black shirts. So that, to me, that's a positive sign, because he understands what that means, and that you can't just give defensive guys black shirts unless they've earned it. So it tells me they're doing something there, and that gives me some hope. I also think that a Brett Bielema offense right out of the gate is probably the perfect meal for a starving defense like Nebraska, because there's nothing fancy you can do with Brandon Peters as your quarterback. So there's only so much that Illinois offense can do. They're going to hand the ball off, and they're probably going to take some shots, and Brandon Peters is going to complete 50% of his passes. And you just have to make sure that a couple of those don't go for big gains for scores. And then if you don't, I don't know how Illinois scores enough, provided the Nebraska defense is even halfway capable. And you should be halfway capable against an Illinois offense. You should be more than halfway capable against an Illinois offense.
And this is a game where Nebraska last year was a 16-point favorite, and then they lost at home to Illinois 41-23. Like that was a like cataclysmically bad loss for them last year. And there's no reason to lose to this to lose to this game team, like none. But it's only a 7-point line, which is like, boy, I mean, you list all the stuff you listed. And like, yeah, it's on the road, but I mean, how many points do you really want to give them for being, at home in front of 1,700 fans in Champaign? And I can't imagine it's going to be that windy this time of year. So you really, really, really need to win this game. And if you win this game, you get Fordham week 2, you get Buffalo week 3 with a new head coach. Like you should be 3-0, and then you're going to get murdered into tiny little pieces at Oklahoma. But Michigan State, they could be 4-1 at the end of September, and they get Michigan coming in at home. And that's a winnable game. I mean, that is a game that you could win. And then you're 5-1. And then you're at Minnesota. And it's like, Minnesota's good, but they're not. And so you could be 6-1, 5-2, 6-1. And you get a bye week. And you get Purdue at home. And you could be 7-1, 6-2, 7-1 before you have to play Ohio State at home. But you could lose this game, and then you're 0-1. And yeah, you beat Fordham and you beat Buffalo, but then you lose to Oklahoma and you're 2-2. And it is a road game at Michigan State. You lose that and it's 2-3. And then you play Michigan at home and you lose, and now it's 2-4. And then at Minnesota, I mean, it's not a gimme. You're probably going to be an underdog there. So now you're 2-5. And then, yeah, okay, maybe you beat Purdue at home, but that's not a given. So you're 3-5, and then you play Ohio State at home and you lose by 50. And then you're 3-6. And it can go a couple different ways. And this feels like as significant a week 0 game for a program as I can possibly remember. It's just, week 0 games are always just kind of like, oh, it's a fun, whimsical, like what it's never Alabama versus Clemson week 1. Like it's just, that's not what it is. It's just, oh, like, it used to be like, oh, there's Sam Houston State's playing someone, and it's like, oh, good, football's on my TV, and you watch it for a quarter and you're like, all right, well, I've lost interest in Sam Houston State. So I guess we'll see y'all next weekend. This is not two teams that I think are probably going to be discussed a lot on the college football playoff shows later in the season. But this is a game that, I mean, like you want to talk about Brett Bielema. I think we, at one point on one of our shows talked about, Brett Bielema is going to really tick someone off this year. Like if he beats Nebraska, like, oh man, stream that post-game press conference live. I want to watch that one because, man, Bert is going to say some stuff if he beats Nebraska.
And if Scott Frost hears about it and he's still in the stadium, it's going to be like a John Chaney,
John Calipari
type of thing where, but Illinois rushed for 285 yards in that game last year, which is crazy. And while you're going through the schedule, you didn't even mention they host Northwestern between the Michigan schools. So they could walk into Minnesota 6-1, but it starts with this first game. And this first game it's as big a game as anybody has had against Illinois, maybe in the last 25 years, where it's like nobody has ever needed to beat Illinois as much as Scott Frost right now, maybe.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a schedule. I mean, I said earlier, like, there's not that many guaranteed wins. It's like they're going to beat Fordham. They're almost certainly going to beat Buffalo. That would be a disaster if they didn't beat Buffalo. They're going to lose to Ohio State. They're going to lose at Wisconsin. They're going to lose to Oklahoma. So it's like there's 2 guaranteed wins, 3 pretty much guaranteed losses, and then there's 7 toss-ups. And you got to win 4 of those toss-ups to make a bowl. You got to win 5 of those toss-ups to have a winning record. They can do it. They can absolutely do it. But also, it's possible they lose 4 of those toss-ups, and all of a sudden you're 5-7, and then you're fired. Like this is going to be a really, really interesting team to watch, because it's like this season, if it gets going well, this could go real well. And if it starts poorly, like, oh man, this could go real, real, real bad.
So are you laying the points?
I think you have to. I think this is,
I'm with
man,
you. Man,
I think they're going to win. And what is Illinois going to have on I know Illinois has brought in a couple grad transfers. So it's like they've kind of tried to half do what Greg Schiano did at Rutgers last year. So it's like, yeah, sort of their talent might be a little better, but man, they really, I mean, this should be Nebraska coming out really fired up and just, trying to jump on them and get to a big early lead. I don't know if this is one where I would lay the points because I don't know if I have that much faith in Nebraska, but I do think Nebraska wins the game.
It feels like it would be maybe like a 9-point game and Brett would kick a field goal to make it a 6-point game or something where I don't know that anybody can get more than 10 points ahead of the other, which means that at some point a touchdown is going to make it a 3-point game or something like that. Illinois, we can move on to the next game and here in a sec, but Illinois, I believe they have something like 170 starts returning on the offensive line, which is insane and something to think about when, this is Brett Bielema. He likes to run the ball. They're going to have an offensive line. They've got decent running backs, but until Brandon Peters is responsible for beating a defense, I'm going to side with Nebraska on that one. And 7 points, yeah, like 28-21, something like that, where I think 7 is pretty good. I don't think I would actually mess with this game.
Yeah, I don't think so. It's like, yeah, I think Nebraska, my strongest opinion on this is I think Nebraska wins, but my real strongest opinion on this is Nebraska better win. That's really my strongest opinion on this game. But yeah, the 7 points is just like, there's too many variables there for me week one to look at that and have any kind of confidence in that.
As always, your strongest opinion is a threat to somebody. You better win. Anyway, let's go to Hawaii. Let's go to Hawaii, Tom. Hawaii at UCLA in Pasadena in the Rose Bowl. Bruins favored by 17.5 points. Tom, tickets as low as $17. But I will warn you, going to be 90 degrees. And who wants to see a game in the Rose Bowl when the weather is a little bit warm but perfect otherwise?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds terrible. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, two places that I would not mind seeing a game. Although, did you know Hawaii doesn't have a stadium this year? Are you aware of? Maybe I don't think you follow Hawaii football quite as closely as I do.
Is it a COVID thing?
No, it is I believe the stadium got condemned. And you think I'm joking, but I'm not. I have not pulled this up, but I believe Aloha Stadium did get condemned. That was one of two pieces of very sad news for Hawaii football over the offseason. The other one was the passing of legendary late night Hawaii TV fixture Robert Kakaula, someone who of all the people in my life I've never met and never. I mean, I've interacted with him on Twitter a little bit just because he was enough of a cult figure that he didn't have a huge following, but enough of a cult figure that I was like, I should tweet at Robert Kakaula sometimes late on Saturday nights. Like, this is a thing you do at 12:30 in the morning on Saturday nights. Absolutely. I'll tweet at Robert Kakaula. And he would respond because it's like, Robert Kakaula is not too important for anyone. But he was just a beloved figure on late night college football Twitter. He sadly passed away over the summer. I am going to be so bummed. I am going to be like, I always, one of the first things I check when I open lsufootball.net/TV is Hawaii on TV? Is Hawaii on TV at home at like 11:30 at night? Because I will 100% like even when we're covering a like 3:30 Ohio State game at home, I know I'll come home, watch the end of the primetime games, and then turn on Hawaii. And it's like, yes, this is the end of every great college football Saturday is a Hawaii game. It will not be the same without Big Bobby Kakaula there this year. He was. Were you a connoisseur of his work, or?
My problem is I could never stay up that late, and those 10:30 games, I can't make it to the end, let alone something a little bit later than that. So that's always been a failing because, Tom, I work, and so I can't just be up all night. I've had a long day of working, laboring, and so as I'm watching, and maybe I've started drinking, I get a little tired, and so by especially if the games aren't good. Now, in terms of like the 10:30s or whatever, I make a vow every year, like I'm staying up late this year. It's like like when you're a kid, let's stay up all night. Mm-hmm. You have some friends over, we're going to stay up all night. Every year I'm like, I'm going to watch more 10:30 games. And then, you get home at like 8 from a noon game. And by like 10, you're like, I'll just watch. I'll lay down and I'll watch, but I'm going to stay awake. I just want to get horizontal and just, enjoy it from the couch. And then, 5 minutes later, you're, zonked out. I remember one time, this is neither here nor there, but you're mentioning Tennessee. Like, I was watching Tennessee and Florida. I was so excited to see it, but I was so tired that day. And it's like, yeah, I'll just watch it from the couch. And I would drift off and I would wake up like, no, you got to stay awake. I can't. I'm so tired. And it's like, no, you have to watch. It's Steve Spurrier versus Phil Fulmer. You only get this once a year. And it's like, yeah, but I'm really tired. And that's what I get at like these 10:30 games, but not this year, Tom. I'm making a vow. I'm staying up for the 10:30 games this year. And especially when the 3:30 games, when we're covering them, I get home, like you're still wired by the time you get home from those. It's those noon games where, I'm out the door by like 7:30 or 8, that those are the ones that get to me.
That monologue was longer than a CVS receipt. And I got to tell you, I only disagreed with one word you said there.
All right.
Maybe I've been drinking. That was your exact quote. I only disagree with one word there. First, scrolling through the LSU football.net, looks like San Jose State at Hawaii after the Ohio State Tulsa game on the 18th of September. That looks like your first Hawaii home game, 11:30 p.m., which will be 12:30 a.m. Eastern time on Fox Sports 1. So it will not be a what was that network called? I mean, it was like the Mountain West Network, but they had like Globe TV or something.
What is
like
it
that.
Even on? Is it on the internet? I mean,
well, this is on Fox Sports 1.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's a little too normie for me. Like I really need like the local access. Last year, week 1, I ended the night with a UTEP game, and I don't remember who UTEP was playing, but it was like they were playing someone that they beat, so whoever it was garbage. And I just remember watching this game, and it's like 1:30 in the morning, and I'm watching UTEP, and my wife's like comes out of the bedroom. She's like, "Are you going to come to bed?" I'm like, "Just UTEP on. Like, I'm not going to turn off UTEP. Like, come on, it's football season. You knew who I was when you married me.
Yeah,
go
don't
back
try
to
to
bed.
Change me, baby."
We're also on track for like an hour 47 show previewing 6 games. So this is going great already. So anyway, UCLA.
Yeah, I'll take UCLA because I know more of their players. And when I say more of their players, I mean one more, and Dorian
Thompson Robinson. Excellently. Well done. And I mean, you want to talk about someone else who you would do well to win this game, Chip Kelly, because you've been there. This is his 4th year at UCLA, and his record is not immediately obvious. There we go. 10-21. 10-21. Phil Steele, your type needs to be a little bigger. Love you, buddy. Yes, 10-21 for Charles Chip Kelly at UCLA. That's not great. That is not what you're looking for. And it's is Martin Jarmon's the AD there, and he's someone who I don't believe he was the one who hired Chip Kelly. He may be another. This may be another new AD. May want to bring his own guy at some point. And I mean, UCLA is just perpetually seems like they should be better. You should be able to win 8 games a year at UCLA, and then it just doesn't ever quite happen. And like Jim Mora had him there and then couldn't stay there. And it's like this either needs to happen or not for Chip Kelly, because the recruiting is, he's doing everything like his own way. And it's like, that's great. You're sending out the fewest offers of anyone in the FBS. That's great as long as it works. There's not a lot of indication it's working yet, so it better start working soon.
I also think the program is just soft. The players have been soft for years. It's a complaint I've had with Texas as well. I thought Chip Kelly would do better. I wonder where they go if they do decide to fire him after this year. I think Jeff Hafley, he used to be a West Coast guy. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm just going to throw Jeff Hafley's name at everybody because I think he would win wherever. Although I still, I think it might be easier to win at Boston College than it is at UCLA because you got a different type of player. You've got a grittier type of player in Boston College than you do at UCLA. But I'm going to go with UCLA. I'm not going to lay the points though. I would never lay 17.5 points for with UCLA.
I think Hawaii is not going to be very good this year. Do you know who Hawaii's coach is?
Somebody mentioned this to me. I do, but not offhand. But when you tell it to me, I'll be like, that's right. If you give me three options, with one of the options being the actual guy, I'll be able to pick the right guy.
Jerry Glanville.
No.
June Jones.
No.
Todd Graham.
That's right. It is Todd Graham.
It is Todd Graham. Yes. I said June Jones and I was like, wait, he's not still the coach, right? No, I almost talked myself into the wrong name. Yes, it is Todd Graham. Yes.
June Johnson.
Yes. Yeah. I think UCLA should win that game. Do you know who UCLA plays week 2?
Tell me.
Home
Mm-hmm.
for LSU.
Yeah.
Prediction. That doesn't go great for UCLA. That is just my prediction. Because if you are soft, 300-pound maulers from Louisiana are probably not 300-pound maulers from the Sweet Tea Belt are probably not what you want to be facing in the trenches. Is my hot take there. Probably not going to go great.
Would you be shocked if Ed Orgeron lost the game? He shouldn't, though.
He's not losing that game. They're not. They're gonna. I think they might murder. They might murder UCLA. Like that just seems like, you know. I don't want to say even Ed Orgeron couldn't screw this up, because that's the kind of thing that you say, and then you're like, why did I think Lucy wasn't going to pull the football away from me again? But even Ed Orgeron won't screw that one up.
All right. Speaking of murder, let's go to Rutgers. They host Temple, and we're going to touch on a couple of these Thursday games for next week. Temple at Rutgers, the first game of the Big Ten season. And why not have Rutgers be that first game of the Big Ten season, second game of the Big Ten season, the Big Ten East season?
I was wondering if you were doing a bit there for a minute, and I'm like, no, I think he literally just forgot about the game we talked about 47 minutes ago.
It's the Big Ten West. It doesn't really count. But it's fitting that Rutgers would be the first game of the Big Ten East, because they did invent essentially college football as we know it today.
And what's more Big Ten than a game between a team from Philadelphia and a team from New Jersey? I asked you.
Perfect. Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
This is another one where you can take a lot of the stuff I said about Nebraska and just sort of find and replace Nebraska with Rutgers here. There's no job security issue for Greg Schiano. Greg Schiano is doing just fine. Greg Schiano is trending in the right direction. But there's a way Rutgers makes a bowl game. If Rutgers loses this game, there's no way Rutgers makes a bowl game. Like there's a few games on the schedule that Rutgers has to win. Temple is, like, you're thinking Temple's pretty good. Like, this is not going to be a good Temple team. This is Temple, after they had Manny Diaz as their head coach for about 7 minutes, nothing has gone well for them since they hired Manny Diaz, and then he left like 3 days later to go coach Miami. So it's not. This is a game that Rutgers should go. Do you have the line in front of you?
Yes, Rutgers 13.5.
Yeah, that feels about right. Like, this is because Rutgers is not going to be fantastic, but Rutgers is going to be competent, and Temple is probably not going to be competent this year. So, yeah, this would be a very, very bad loss for Rutgers. But I think they win, and I think they probably cover.
Yeah, I think they cover as well, and tickets are only $16 if you want to check that one out. I think that's a good way to start the season, and it's a way to build some confidence. And I think they can make that one even a little bit ugly, depending on the quarterback play there, which is always a big if at Rutgers. One of the more interesting matchups then at 7:00 Thursday night, or 6 p.m. Central for Tom. Boise State at UCF. Tom, do you know the name of the official name of the UCF stadium?
It's the Bounce House, but is it the Bright House Network Stadium, something like that? It was at one point, I believe.
ESPN is listing it as the Bounce House.
It is the Bounce House. Okay, so yes, Tony, can you name the coaches of the two teams who are playing? Because both of them have new head coaches.
UCF no, I can't.
UCF is Gus Malzahn, late
That's
of
right.
Auburn,
yes.
And Boise State is Andy Avalos, who was a defensive assistant at Oregon, I believe, before last year. He was either Washington or Oregon. I think it was Oregon. So
I think this is a good fit for Gus Malzahn. I just wonder if he's going to get tired of it, or like if he's done. Like, I'm rich, I don't need to do this anymore.
But if you didn't need to do this anymore, then you could take a year off. I mean, you're getting Auburn buyout money, which is like cash money buyout. I mean, like, the gif of the guy holding a brick of dollar bills, like a phone against his head. That's every Auburn football coach after they get fired. So this is a bizarrely Auburn adjacent game because it is the guy who got fired by Auburn and then playing the team that lost its head coach to Auburn, because that's where Brian Harsin went. Brian Harsin went from Boise State to Auburn to go replace Gus Malzahn. So bizarrely Auburn adjacent game featuring two teams that are nowhere near Auburn. So that'll be fun. This is one of these games that's like, I said earlier that there was like a week 0 game that was like a bizarrely consequential week 0 game. This is a bizarrely consequential first Thursday of the season game, because that always feels like that's always like South Carolina playing someone, terribly and having an awful game that you want to turn off 45 minutes in. This is like legitimately could decide, if it's not Cincinnati, this game could decide who the group of 5 representative in the Year 6 is. Like that's possible. I think it's going to be Cincinnati, but like these are two really good teams. Someone's going to have a very good win. And you win this game, you get rolling in the conference. Tony, these teams could be the ones that we're asking questions on the college football playoff conference call and going, what are you morons watching? How do you have them 17th? They're 10-0 and not getting answers. I can't wait. It's one of my favorite college football season traditions.
Yeah. And whoever wins this game will be rooting for the rest of the season, because it could be a very quality win for whoever pulls it out. UCF is favored by 5.5. It's going to be interesting to see who comes out of that and how they do from there. And it's just one of those fun matchups. It's like the bracket busters in college basketball every year when they have their whole week of bracket busters, where you pit just teams like this that could bust a bracket, if you will, and then have them face off each other. I early in the season, I always go with the home team. It's just until I see something, I want to go with the home team. But also, I don't really like picking against Boise State. And UCF took a step back from the Scott Frost days, so I may go. I may take the points on this one. I don't know if Boise State is going to win, and I don't know how good they're supposed to be, really. But I guess if I were to do anything, I would take the points.
I think I'd go with UCF here. I think Gus Malzahn, you've got a team full of Florida kids, which generally equates to, I'm painting with some real broad strokes here, but generally your skill talent on any Florida team is generally pretty darn good. So if Gus Malzahn has a quarterback who can run and skill talent that can run, I think Gus Malzahn might do pretty okay at UCF. So, this is a first game coach versus a first game coach in week 1. So again, saying anything with a high degree of confidence here is probably not advisable, but I'd probably take UCF here.
Just so you know, Phil Steele is picking Boise State to win the Mountain West Conference, and he's not picking UCF to win the Mountain West Conference. Let's go to our next game, which, as I'm scrolling here, Tom, the battle for the orangeness, Bowling Green at Tennessee. Bowling Green, arguably the worst team in America, with arguably the worst head coach in America, only a 34-point underdog to Tennessee. You can get into this game at historic Neyland Stadium for $15, Tom. If you wanted to skip your game, well, you wouldn't even have to skip. Well, you'd have to skip the Ohio State game.
I'm pretty sure that our employers would not be happy with me if I skipped the Ohio State game to go to Bowling Green, Tennessee. So
just don't get caught on camera. Just call in sick. Don't get caught on camera.
Smart.
I had, in high school, I don't want to make the show too much longer. In high school, our basketball team went to state like my junior year, and one of my buddies who worked at Wendy's called in sick that day because he wanted to go to the state championship game, but he was on camera the entire time because we were behind the basket. So when he got home, answering machine was a call from his boss at Wendy's saying he had been fired. So terrible.
That's a very frosty reception to come home to. Do you get it? Because he worked at Wendy's. Got it.
Yes, I got it.
Good.
Thank you, Tom.
Sometimes when you pause, I'm wondering if you're thinking or if you're doing it for dramatic purposes.
No, it's disappointment. That's the pause. It's a pause of disappointment. It's not like frosty. Oh, it's it. No, I'm not putting the words together and the math together unless it's actual math. Then I'm putting it together. That's what the pause is. This is disappointment.
All right, I'll do some math. 34 points plus first-time head coach. And hey, boy, this has been a show full of smooth transitions because we went from Boise State to former replacing the coach and then the UCF. And then where did UCF's coach from last year go?
Tennessee.
Boom, Tennessee. Smooth transition. If we had a better host, we would have made that kind of transition for you earlier, but that's okay. We got to talk about Wendy's. That's all right. That's what we're here for. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. Yes, Josh Heupel, new head coach of Tennessee. I don't think it's going to go great for him for a little while. There's a lot of rebuilding there. Speaking of fast food, the McDonald's has only gotten them so far over the last few years. So it's going to be a process. And that's another program where the development hasn't been very good over the years. It's like even when they bring in suspiciously good recruits, it's like, well, nothing ever really happens with them. So, but yeah, Bowling Green is garbage, like hot garbage, hot steaming garbage, fresh off the grill. And Tennessee is going to be incentivized to roll it up. So even though they're not good, not particularly good, I think I would take Tennessee, lay the 34 points, and watch them win 63-3.
Did you see Josh Heupel's statement this week about how much he likes his players and how much he likes his team?
Well, my counterpoint. What is he supposed to say?
But did you remember when was it Butch Jones said that Tennessee was champions of life?
I do. Yes. As a snarky internet college football person. Yes, I do remember that.
That's why it surprised me that you didn't get a chance to see what Josh Heupel said, who says basically the reason he likes this team, or not the reason, but one of the things he likes about him is the way I really love how our guys like walk up the stairs. They really know how to walk. They're really good. They're really good. I like the kind of their jib, and I like how they do this. And I like the fact that they can make it up the stairs without using their hands, and they can just use their feet to do it, basically. So, Tom, you have something to say?
I think I'm vapor locking. Like I literally cannot tell if you're kidding or not. And I'm like,
I'm looking for the exact quote.
I would really love for you to find the exact quote before I have a stroke on camera. I mean, this is a program that you go back. I mean, do you remember the year? I think they played Georgia Tech. It was like the Labor Day weekend game in the Sunday night game or the Monday night game of Labor Day weekend in 2017. And I think they played Georgia Tech, and it might have been the first Butch Jones game, maybe, or it was, his second year or his third year. And their big symbol, Miami had the turnover chain, and everyone's going to have their gimmick. And Tennessee's gimmick was a trash can. And it was just like, oh, well, just as Miami has encapsulated so neatly its style over substance with a blingy turnover chain, you have somehow managed to perfectly encapsulate Tennessee football with a gray and orange with the checkerboard pattern trash can. Like, yep, I got to tell you, nailed it.
Nailed it. Yes. So here's the full quote from the press conference. I love this team's effort and energy, the way they've learned how to approach walking up the stairs and going to meetings and being consistent in those competitive behaviors that you've got to have. Well, at least stairs are competitive. They're not supposed to be, but I guess if you're not very good at them, you have to find your competition anywhere you can. So, Tom, your reaction to Tom is
walking up the stairs.
And to Tony, he just said his approach, not so much the walking. But the walking is still an issue. It's the approach.
So it's the way they're walking up to the stairs, not actually walking up the stairs. Tony, Bowling Green to win outright. There, I said it. What's the money line on that game? All of the money on Bowling Green. Money. What? The way they walk up the stairs.
Yeah.
Uh, how does that school keep doing this? I mean, like they keep hiring different people, and yet they all turn into the same person. I don't understand. It was what's his name last year? The head coach who was the former Alabama defensive coordinator. Him.
John.
He had a last name, but he was the one who had never heard of asparagus, or it was just like, what? How have you, what? Like, and it's just like, how do you have a media department that tells people like,
you have a nutrition department?
You're going to get asked about the team. Why did you talk about how they're doing on the field and not like in terms of like the stairs in the facility? Like they're not falling down the stairs as much anymore. It's really, I mean, we've had huge progress over the course of the offseason. Like, Tennessee, you have 100,000 seat stadium. You play in the SEC. You have won a national championship in the lifetimes of like most people who are listening to this podcast, not recruits, but most people who are listening to this podcast. You've won a national championship in their lifetime. Like, how have you been exactly this for like 15 years now? I don't understand.
Kevin Steele? No. I'm it's like, because now it's bothering me. I was thinking John Chavis, but no, it's Jeremy Pruitt.
Yes.
But when I Google Tennessee fires coach, and man, there's a lot of Tennessee firing coaches going on. So there's, but I did eventually.
Jeremy Pruitt was also the one who, yes. And as soon as you type Jeremy Pruitt, it comes up with Jeremy Pruitt asparagus. So yes, I was remembering that story correctly. Jeremy Pruitt was also the one who, wore his mask like Cornholio last year. So yes, it is. It's just, I feel like there must be a lot of lead paint in the Tennessee football facility. Like, and it's just like, well, we got rid of the salad bar due to budget. So just peel something off the wall and it's fine. Like, what is going on with you people? What is, and yes, but yeah, they'll still be, they're still the best coach team on the field on Saturday. So that's the safe to say.
That's very safe to say. Another Google thing here is Jeremy Pruitt asparagus GIF. So I now I have to click on it and he's eating it. He's trying it out apparently. He's trying some asparagus out. Doesn't seem to care for it. But Tom,
in a famous clip, Pruitt was eating at a restaurant and he responded to a plate of asparagus by saying, quote, "I ain't never heard of that." What flavor do you think the lead paint is?
Oh, it's got to be creamsicle.
Yeah. The correct answer is orange. Yes, orange. Good job.
Orange is my favorite flavor. Tom, I don't know what we're going to do when we have like 15 or 20 games to talk about because we don't have enough time in a day.
It's going to turn into the Jerry Lewis telethon. It's going to be like 18 hours of us previewing games and talking about how stupid college football coaches are. I can't wait, man. College football season is here and I am so excited.
Yeah, I am as well. I mean, you can hear the excitement in our voices that it is here and it's going to be here for a while. And I'm looking forward to it. Tom, anything else before we go?
No, other than I can't wait for football. It is finally here. Hooray, football. Hooray. And now, we have like 4 solid months of this now. That's great.
It is great. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm happy it's here. And thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening. If you stuck with us, thank you. I know you now know more about, no, you don't know anything more about anything after this show. Sorry about that. Next time, we'll probably try to do better, but I'm not going to make any promises. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening. Check out BuckeyeScoop.com. Check out YouTube.com/BuckeyeScoop. And we will talk to you guys later.